Hello, lads. I am so mad at Glenn Beck right now. I am so very upset at that fat, that, that fat drunk Glenn Beck. God. Okay, let me explain. I just got finished seeing a movie that was really good. It's called Nefarious. And the thing is, it could have been great. It could have been a great movie. And for most of the time most of the running time of the movie, it is great in just about every way. The acting is great. Well, I mean, the acting is really good. I guess great is. I don't want to be giving out laurels to just anybody, but I would say the acting is from very good to great. Okay, on that range. The writing is good. The direction is good. It's very very compelling. It's riveting. It keeps you rooted to your seat. Even though it's all talk, there's no or almost all conversation. It's very dialogue heavy, but there's the situation is still just extremely powerful for the viewer. What's the plot? The plot is there's a man who's been sentenced to death in Oklahoma. He has committed numerous terrible murders over the course of his life, and the psychologist or the psychiatrist who was going to assess him to see if he was competent to stand or competent, psychologically competent, or if he was insane, and therefore could be spared the death penalty because by reason of insanity. The original guy dies under strange circumstances. He appears to commit suicide, although it's never quite told why he does such a thing. And so instead, this other guy comes in. This other guy who also a psychologist or psychiatrist, not quite on the same echelon as the first guy, but perfectly competent. He comes in to assess this notorious murderer, and maybe you've seen the preview. If you see the preview, you will not. Nothing is given away about this movie being any kind of like possible vehicle for culture war. Back and forth, or which I'm sure it's going to become that. I'm sure it already is that. I'm sure liberal critics are already just wringing their hands. The thing is, though, let me get to that in a second. So most of the movie is just a very taut psychological thriller about this confrontation between this psychiatrist who's a materialist and an atheist and doesn't believe in a spiritual realm, and the guy that he's talking to, who presents himself as demon possessed. And in fact, most of the time, the person who claims to be speaking to the psychiatrist is someone who claims to be a demon by the name of Nefarious, hence the title of the movie, Nefarious. He has some other Latin name, but it translates to Nefarious, or the Nefarious One. So I really don't want to give too much away about the confrontation, the back and forth between these two men, because it's really 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 well done. And yes, it does become clear eventually that the writer of the screenplay has a point of view about about good and evil, about the spiritual realm, about certain hot button issues like euthanasia and abortion. These things all come up, and it's clear that the movie is taking a side on those issues. And it's not the side that the cultural commissars want us to take. So for that reason alone, I know that liberal critics are going to hate this movie. The thing is, though, for most of the movie, until the last 10 minutes, until the very end of the movie, for most of it, you have to give it up to the film because it's really, really good. It's just so well made that even if you're a liberal and you don't like the message that it's sending out, if you're an honest reviewer, you have to say, this is really good. This kept me riveted to my seat. This is very powerful. The performances are really good, especially on the part of the would-be killer. And so forth. So I was just thinking to myself, oh boy, liberals are going to hate this movie, but it's just, I wonder if there are any honest liberals out there who will watch this movie and say, yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like the position it was taking on hot button issues and about spirituality versus materialism and so forth. But still, it's a damn good movie. And I would respect liberal critics like that. I think the best reviewers don't review things ideologically. They just ask themselves, was this good? Was this compelling? Did this, did this do it for me? Was the acting good? Was the direction good? Was the score good? Did it all come together? Did it all mesh? Did the ideas that it discusses, were they discussed in a way that seemed, naturalistic and not didactic? Not like they're trying to shove something in your face, but at the same time, they're coming about these issues in an honest way. And I think you have to say, for almost all of the movie, that yes, that is absolutely the case until the very end. And this is why I hate Glenn Beck right now. I mean, hate is a strong word, but I just okay. So at the very beginning of the movie, we hear a voice of a talk show commentator saying, talking about the killer, saying, why is this guy still sucking oxygen? He's been given a reprieve for too long. He needs to be put to death. He's a cold-blooded killer. He's evil. And if you pay attention to the voice, it sounds familiar because it's Glenn Beck's voice. And that starts out the movie. And you're sort of like, well, okay, that they're using Glenn Beck's voice. Glenn Beck played a role just as a voiceover of a radio talk show guy, and that's what he is. So, okay, cool. Not too intrusive, and some people probably aren't even going to notice, won't even recognize the voice. But then they had to throw in this part at the end of the movie where Glenn Beck, where the guy goes on Glenn Beck's talk show. Does Glenn Beck even have a talk show? I guess maybe it's just his YouTube channel. I'm not sure. Like there's a big studio and it says GB, so this character, the psychiatrist character, comes out and talks to Glenn Beck about his experiences and everything that was great up to that point just ceases to be great. And all, everything that you could say up to that point where it's like, okay, it has a message, but it's not, it's pro-Christian. it's against it's saying that the demonic realm is real and so forth, but it's not being didactic about it. It's not in your face. It's not preachy. But then these last 10 minutes come around where this guy talks to Glenn Beck, and Glenn Beck is so like, I mean, I don't like to make fun of people for how they look, but he's like, his pudgy little face and his pudgy little hands and are just like, and his voice, and he's talking to the guy and like, okay, so here's the message of the movie, that you learned your lesson, didn't you, atheist psychiatrist? And I'm just like, I'm not actually face palming, but I was face palming in my heart. Just an awful way to end what was otherwise close to a great movie. And I wish that there could be. I would pay to have a director's cut where they just leave out the Glenn Beck scene and somehow have it conclude differently than it did. Just have some other stuff happen that doesn't involve the psychiatrist going before Glenn Beck and saying, yeah, I was wrong, evil is real. So thumbs up for this movie until the very end. See it, but maybe just leave at the Glenn Beck scene. I don't know. Just walk out early. But other than that, other than those last 7 to 10 minutes, great movie. I think close to being a great movie. No criticisms that I can think of. None of the actors were recognizable, which is always nice. It must have been a tight budget kind of a feature. Where although it doesn't look cheap, it doesn't look cheaply made, but it's just nice to have one of the just a bunch of no names, a bunch of fresh faces in a movie. That's always kind of fun for me anyway. So there you go. My thoughts on this new movie, Nefarious. If you've seen it or if you have your own thoughts, leave them below. Thanks for watching.